When it comes to modern day Star Trek, I think it's a safe bet that Strange New Worlds is as good as it's going to get for all of us. There was a glimmer of hope when Terry Matalas took the reins on Picard Season 3 and gave us something that almost all the fans absolutely loved and through petitions demanded more through Star Trek Legacy, which looks like may not happen. So as I said before, this is as good as it's going to get for us in Star Trek. So, with that said, Red Shirts Always Die has come out with an article that gives me a little concern, and I want to talk about it today. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. W.F.S. here. Hope everything's going good for you. Well, Red Shirts Always Die has come out with a new article regarding Star Trek, Strange New Worlds, and the idea is they want to continue the series all the way up to the original series, TOS. And as a matter of fact, and you already know this, they've taken characters and ideas from the original and meshed it into their series, but they want to do more. They want to take more characters and possibly more history. And this is something that to me is very concerning. But we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. Let's talk a little bit about this article. All right, so the article starts with Star Trek Strange New Worlds wants to run into the original series, but should they? Just how much of the original series should Strange New Worlds broach? You know, there's the problem that I have, and I think a lot of you have that too. When it comes to things like Spock and Dupring, we all know that Spock and Dupring weren't even mentioned. No one knew Spock was married until the episode Arm Arc of Time, where Spock was into the blood fever, Pon farr. And he had to return home to Vulcan or he was going to die. And only once they reached orbit and they turned on the viewing screen did they see Dupring on the view screen. And Uhura asks, "Who is that, Mr. Spock?" "That's Dupring, my wife." Everyone was in shock. The music went up, dun dun dun, because nobody knew that that was Spock's wife. And now the Strange New Worlds comes along and says, you know what? Let's bring Dupring into this show and we'll show the whole world that everybody knew that Spock was married before they even knew he was married. Do you see the problem here? By doing this, bringing characters from the original series over out of the timeline and putting them in places where no one knew about them before, but suddenly there they are, you are ruining the original episode. While the fight between Kirk and Spock in Arm Arc of Time was a cool fight, and Spock's reaction to Kirk being alive at the end, Jim, was just amazing to see Spock actually getting excited. It's still, that whole bit right there takes away from the whole episode as far as I'm concerned. Star Trek Strange New Worlds has been a bona fide hit since its launch. The series is the new benchmark for all modern Trek series to be measured against and has done the best job objectively and of balancing the new vision of the franchise while bringing along the older fans. As the older fans make up most of the fan base, it's important not to forget them as the creators of the show attempt to draw in newer fans, thus preserving the franchise for decades to come. Okay, I'll give them that they need to come up with new ideas to draw fans in, yes, but as this article pointed out, the older fans make up the fan base. So if the older fans are making up the fan base, you definitely do have to respect them and why they are fans. The fact is that we grew up with Star Trek and we followed it. The comic books that came out, the novels, the movies, everything we loved about Star Trek. And then finally, the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Star Trek Enterprise, all those were great stories. And they all had their hit or miss episodes, but for the most part, they tried to stay within the history of the show, which is something that I think they do try in Strange New Worlds. But as I said, when they pull these stunts that they've done, taking characters out of their timelines, altering the character's place in history, or making a genetic blood relative that surely should not be on the Enterprise, but they did. And you see where I'm going with this. It just, to me, these are problems. Somehow, this has been things that they've let pass. But now we do have a little bit of a problem. I'm going to read into this a little bit further. Yes, despite its being a success and critically achievements, Strange New Worlds isn't perfect. It does mess up occasionally, as all the Star Trek shows have done in the past. Yeah, they have. Yet, for the most part, the show has done an honorable job of respecting the lore. As I said, it does okay. So now with season 3 getting ready to come out, they're talking about possibly continuing it, but they also want to know, how can we conclude this thing? So it was odd when series co-creator Akiva Goldsman recently said he intended to take the show into TOS territory. There it goes, my friends. This is the warning I've been telling you about. For those that don't know, Strange New Worlds is a prequel to the original Star Trek series. It can't be a prequel. It can't be. I'm sorry. A prequel implies that you're telling stories about the crew and maybe the crew before them, before the events of the original series. But as I said, when you take characters out of their timeline, you're not creating a prequel. You are creating an alternate universe. At least that's the way I think about it. So this is where we have our problems. TOS. Speaking to Collider, Goldsman made it clear he intends to go into the TOS era. You see, there's the problem right there. He wants to go into the original series. It's bad enough that they have taken stuff out of it, but now he wants to go into it? Left to our own devices, which really means if Paramount will, we will keep going into the TOS era right there. They don't want to just drag characters out of their timeline. They want to go into the series itself. What, does that mean Pike is going to battle the Doomsday Machine? Does that mean that they're going to have to face Spock with a beard? I mean, come on. This is just, I don't know. This bothers me. And I do enjoy Strange New Worlds. I really do. But I just think at some point you're going to have to stop relying on TOS and try and carry on the show with your own ideas. The Gorn is another example of how they've messed things up. The Gorn in Strange New Worlds are the main villain. They're the main villain in all this. They're more like alien creatures. They're from the movie Alien than they are Star Trek. And there you go again. Gorn was in the arena. And the arena is where we were first introduced to them. But now, because of Strange New Worlds, that particular episode from the original series seems kind of pointless because there's no shock and awe about who the characters were who attacked the colony on Cestus 3. Cestus 3. So what does this mean? It's hard to say. I mean, look, I'm not going to read the article, but let's be honest about this. They want to take this series to the ending. They want to have a conclusion. That's great. I would love to see a decent conclusion to this. But I mean, if your conclusion involves ripping off more of the original series and making the other series unwatchable, that's a problem for me. So I'm just curious. What are your thoughts and comments on Strange New Worlds? I know there's a lot of haters out there. There are. And in some cases, I completely understand it. But for me, and I've been saying it all along, for me, Strange New Worlds is a mixed bag. There are episodes that I like and there are episodes that I don't like. But when I read articles like this that tell me they want to keep going into TOS and take more stuff out of it, you can't tell me, on one hand, that it's a prequel and then go over to the original series and take stuff out of it, ruining those episodes. Then it no longer becomes a prequel. It's just an alternate universe as far as I'm concerned. And once I accepted the fact that this is an alternate universe, then it made the show more easy for me to watch. Again, my thoughts, my comments on this, and I'm just concerned that they're not hurting Star Trek. I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments on this. So please drop them below and let me know. Until the next time, my friends, God bless.